Hey everyone, and thanks for joining the Lunch and Learn today. The topic will be CodeSweep, and we'll talk a bit about how this can be used in IDEs and GitHub. If you have any questions, I will have some demo scattered throughout, so feel free to ask some questions after the demo, whether you do it in chat or via audio, if that's possible. I'll try to get to them, but if we don't get to your questions, feel free to just drop us a note and we'll be happy to follow up with you. The agenda for today is fairly simple. I kind of want to show you how to find and fix issues while you code. I think that's kind of the promise of CodeSweep, and I want to make sure you're aware of how you can achieve that, and also talk a bit about how you can make more secure code reviews. And here's where we'll dive into GitHub. As long as the items we'll cover today is we'll do a quick intro, just brief what we can do for developers. We'll talk about the CodeSweep capabilities in the IDE, after which I will take a short break and have the first demo. You can ask some questions here. If I get to them, if I see them, I'll try to answer them. And then we'll do a quick demo of the GitHub part, and then how you can integrate CodeSweep with AppScan on Cloud for some better visibility for your security teams. After that, we'll demo the lovely thing we just talked about, and finally close with a quick Q&A. With that being said, HCL AppScan it's a fairly large product, and CodeSweep is one of the capabilities. What we can do for developers today is we can help you write more secure code with static analysis. We have enabled our IDE plugins and some of the software source code manager tools to be able to do quick scans. So whether you're running your code through a GitHub action or you're just writing some code locally, we have created ways for you to be able to have a look at what could potentially be wrong with it, alert you, tell you what the issue is, and in some cases automatically fix it. We also offer some developer-driven DAST, and this comes as a Chromium plugin that allows you to record your actions through an application, and this allows you to pinpoint the areas which are really important to you in a DAST scan. So if you're looking to do some more incremental scanning for dynamic analysis, this plugin would allow you to record those areas, you'd pass them back to the scanner, and then it would scan them for you. But the topic for today will be having a look at static analysis and HCL CodeSweep and how that can help you. HCL AppScan CodeSweep is, at the base, a community edition version of AppScan. It is targeted at developers, and it is meant to be free. It is powered by the same AppScan SaaS scanners that you can get with our commercial solution, but there are some differences in how you can use them. This is focused specifically on as you code security testing, which means we'll look at things in the file you're working on. We will run scans on the save, but we will not go through the process of scanning entire projects, generating reports, or anything like that. So the purpose of this is to help you find things when you write the code, avoid sending those into the pipeline, avoid security ever seeing these issues, and make sure you save yourself some time because you don't have to go back and review anything that security sends your way. We also looked at adding some automated fixed capabilities directly in the IDE, and we feel like there's a lot that we can do which will not affect the application behavior or the way in which you work with your data. There's a lot of security vulnerabilities out there, which can be seen as simple misconfigurations within the code. And we try to target those and we try to fix as many as we can for you. Because if you fix those now, they will not make it to a backlog. There's no risk of them potentially being exploited later on. And there's also the benefit of not getting kind of pinged by security later on and told, hey, you have to fix this, or you have to tell us if this is a problem or not. It does allow you to integrate with AppScan on Cloud. So if you're working with a larger project, we can definitely have a look at any existing issues. So if you were to find any of those issues in your code, we will not highlight them. And we support over 35 languages and frameworks. As of today, the tool has been installed by more than 28,500 users, and the number is growing. I mean, the exact number is 28,736, but who's tracking that daily? The answer to that is me. And we're doing roughly 500,000 scans, or scan 500,000 files every 30 days. We get 1,000 users joining our group per month. And today it is available in Visual Studio Code and JetBrains IDEs. And for the JetBrains IDEs, this is available for IntelliJ, Rider, CLion, Goland, PHP Storm, WebStorm, and PyCharm. So there's plenty IDs where you can play with this and you can benefit from the CodeSweep capabilities. Now, with that being said, we are going to jump into the first part of our demo, and I will show you live how to use the tool. What we have here is a simple Java project. It's a simple web application. And in my scenario here, I was working with some cookies. I was trying to get some data from them, trying to do some debugging. And I just want to make sure I can access my cookie wherever, whenever. I don't have to worry about it being encrypted or anything like that. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to take the account cookie and I'll set secure to false. After I do this, if I save my file, I'll see that AppScan is identifying one new security issue for me. And when I navigate to the AppScan view, I can see my issue showing up here saying use of insecure cookies identified in Java code. Now, what I can do here is I can read more information about the problem. And this will tell me what the issue is with the use of insecure cookies. And it can tell you that if you have sensitive information, these cookies, you probably want to keep them encrypted, because if someone's going to steal that information, you could be in trouble. We also provide you with some code samples of what's a bad behavior and what's a good behavior and how you should fix your issues, as well as additional fix recommendations, information about this in the related article, and external references from various reputable sources. You have several options when dealing with this. If you don't want to see this issue, if you think it's a problem, you can obviously mark this as noise. Or you can decide to disable the entire rule. In my case, I know this is a problem. I'm very sure of it. So what I'll do here is I'll try to fix it. I know CodeSweep is telling me it's a problem. So how do I go about fixing it? The first thing I can do is I can hover over it and I can apply a quick fix. And here's where the AppScan AutoFix comes into play. It can list the options you have available, and the first one will always be the code. If you select this one, in my case, it will automatically set the set secure flag back to true, which is the default, and will take care of the issue for me. And that's a great way to deal with your security problems as you write your code. You don't have to do anything new. You don't have to think about anything else. All you have to do, just save your code and continue as is. Alternatively, if you want to be a bit more strict with what you're looking for, you can simply go ahead and disable the entire rule. So if we mark this one as false again, we have the option of disabling the rules that we don't like. So in my case, I could disable this rule, and this information would be reported in the security rules section. So you saw I just disabled the use of insecure cookies. If we scroll through my list, we see this in here. But I know this is a real problem and I'm worried about it. So I'll go ahead and enable it again. And I can also look at other various issues that might be disabled or enabled for me. If I want to read more about the rule, you can navigate through them and read all the information available. This would tell you about the problem, code samples, and fix recommendations. And you could decide which ones to keep and which ones to disable based on the application you're working on your own internal engineering frameworks, and keep up with all the security requirements that are thrown your way. In my case, I'm kind of happy with the work I've done. I don't think this is a problem. I will see the issue comes up again. So what I'll do is I'll create a new branch for myself, and I'll happily not vulnerable code, and I'll send this to GitHub. I'll create a commit. And I'll publish this branch to GitHub. Now at this point, Everything is on the IDE. I could have fixed this. I decided not to. And for the next part, we'll see how GitHub will take care of this for us. So the first thing we'll do is we'll quickly go back to the presentation. I'll explain you the workflow, and then we'll have a look exactly at what happens on the GitHub side. The traditional workflow we see with GitHub is everyone has a main branch. Everyone has a branch on which the code, which is a candidate for production or production code, will live. And when you're looking to build something new, you'll create yourself a different branch. I'll call this a feature branch in here. And what will happen is you're done with your work, you're happy with the code you've done, and you want to create a pull request to get the code from your feature branch into the main branch. And this is where we added CodeSweep for GitHub. On the pull request, we will look at it and we will analyze all the new lines of code that are going through that pull request. If we identify any security issue, we'll let you know, and you'll be able to see that as part of your diff review. So when you're doing a code review, we will present you potential vulnerabilities that you can look at, understand, and make a decision on. What we hope would happen, you'd look at this, you'd read all the information about the issue, and if it's a real issue, you send this back to the developer that made the pull request, get them to fix it, and then ask them to resubmit the pull request. However, we know that's not always the case. Sometimes you're in a rush, you just want to merge something in or wherever you want to do. And in that case, what we're doing is we will start looking at integrating your security teams into your workflows so they understand when something bad is happening. You've done your scan, you found some vulnerabilities, you decide to do nothing about it. You want to accept these into your main branch. So what will happen then is when we see a vulnerability here, we'll create one in ASOC, and we'll mark your application as non-compliant if it doesn't matches the internal security policies. And this allows your security teams to keep an eye on what you're doing. As a development group, you can still stay in the tooling that you like. You can still stay with GitHub. You can still do your work there, investigate your tickets as you would. But when you accept some vulnerable code into the main branch, an entry will be created for security. And this way they have a chance to audit and they can come to you for any questions or anything they might want to know about a specific application. Just makes it easier for everyone to stay in touch without actually having to go and set up a weekly call to see how everyone is doing. And now we're going to go on to the second part of our demo, which is GitHub. This is the application that we've been working on. And this is the one where we had our pull request. So let's have a look at the pull request that was done here. And it's the not vulnerable code branch. So let's create a pull request and see what happens. I have several actions set up to run here. I have an action set up to run when I do a pull request, which is the actual code sweep analysis part, the part that checks for vulnerabilities. And then if the pull request is merged, I have another action which is set to send the vulnerabilities identified in this pull request to AppScan on cloud where the security team could see them. So what we can do is we can have a quick look at our actions here. And we can see it's running. And we can also have a quick look at our workflow file. The workflow file is very simple. It's very easy to set up this action. All you have to do is kind of go through the template. In my case, I'm saying I want to run a pull request whenever it's open or synchronized. And then I'm going to specify the action I want to run. In our case, I want to get the checkout action because I need the code to do the analysis. And then I will get some steps to run the AppScan CodeSweep action. For the CodeSweep action, I just need to provide the secret, the key, and the status that I want to define if something is identified at the end of a run. We can already see some results here showing up in our CodeSweep, but what we'll do is we'll actually work with the pull request itself. And we see here that some checks were not successful, and this is because AppScan identified a vulnerability. And you can already see here the use of insecure cookies in Java code. If you want to see the vulnerability in code, you look at the file changes, and as you look to understand what's new, you can see a warning coming here from AppScan. And this will tell you the use of insecure cookie in Java code, but you can also read more information about what's the problem and how to work with it. So if you don't do this in your IDE, you can still get some notifications about what the problem is, some code samples, some fixed recommendations, and external references. And at the end of this check run, you get the full list of all the different instances of this vulnerability that were found in your code. And this allows you to do that better code review. It allows you to say, Florin, you can reply with a comment, why is this vulnerability here? Please fix it, and send back the pull request, ask them to fix the problem before they submit it again. If you're a strong-headed developer like I am, you'd say, it's not a problem. I'm perfectly fine with this. Just accept it. I don't care. And in that case, you'll say, that's fine. I'll do this merge. Or in my case, you can kind of do your own code reviews, which is not very secure. And we'll see a different action kicking in. And this is the publish to ASOC action. And this is what we'll look at creating the results in AppScan on Cloud for us. This one, again, is very simple. It has a very simple definition. So if you look at the workflow file, we can see here that all it's doing is getting the credentials to log into ASOC, the application against which to store the results, and then publish on merge. So if we go to AppScan on Cloud, we'll have a new application here called Altora New API. And if we go to our scans, we see I have a scan from earlier today, and I have a new scan coming through today. And this is just here to publish the data for me, make it available for my security team to look at, make it available for other developers to look at, or my own development management team, and understand what's the security status of the work that I'm doing. And you can look at this as being a slightly incremental analysis and keep track on what's introduced in every new merge of your code. In my case, it found one issue. It just happened that I found the exact same issue previously. And if we go to this issue, we can see exactly what it is. It tells you again about how to fix it, what the issue is, the same information you've seen in the IDE and in GitHub. Everyone has access to the same information. The benefit here is you can add comments. You can see that I found this twice. So there's an entry to let me know that this was identified in GitHub. And again, me identifying the same issue twice. In case you're working with this, you want to change statuses, all of this information will be stored in here. And the issue details telling you where it was found, the line, and the offending code. And this is how you can keep your own developer workflows. You can go through the IDE and through GitHub and make sure you do write secure code, or at least you check your code for obvious security vulnerabilities. And in my case, I didn't have to do anything special. All the GitHub actions, you just have to set them once, and you can decide when you run them. And you can track this vulnerability from the IDE, where we found it for the first time, and we refused to apply the auto fix, to GitHub, where we found it for a second time in our pull request, and all the way to AppScan on Cloud, where we store the vulnerability after we accepted the code into our main branch. And that's how you can use the HCL AppScan CodeSweep to find vulnerabilities early, fix them, do better code reviews, and make sure that your security team is always in sync with what you're doing in your development environments. This has been the demo for today. I want to keep it very short but entertaining for you. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. I'll be happy to answer them.
We do have one question. It says, can we use CodeSweep IDE to check OWASP vulnerabilities inside React Native project, JavaScript/Java?
Yes, absolutely. So if you were to install the plugin, which I guess I can quickly show you how to do, you'd simply go to the marketplace directly from Visual Studio Code, look for AppScan CodeSweep. For me, it's already installed, but you'll have an option to install this. And as soon as you install it, a new icon like this will appear in your IDE. After that, you can scroll through the languages and see all the different options. But yes, React is here, JavaScript is here, Node.js is here, Java is here as well. We do have a large list of languages that we cover. Other popular things that might be in here are Flutter, Python. We also do some infrastructure as code for things like Terraform, Docker, and Kubernetes pods. We do cover a large number of languages.
And we have one more question. Will a link to the recording be sent to the attendees? Yes, there will be a link in a couple of days. I'll be sending a thank you email out to everybody. And you can share that link to anybody, colleagues, friends, anyone who think you might benefit from this recording. Are there any more questions? How is CodeSweep different from AppScan Source for analysis?
AppScan Source for analysis, it's a desktop tool. It's a tool that you have to install as a large package. And when you run AppScan Source for analysis, you can scan an entire application. You can load in a large application, scan it, and you'll be presented with all the results at the end. CodeSweep only focuses on what you're working at one point in time. There is no option for me to scan this entire application. It's meant to be useful for developers to find things as they work on them and not check entire projects. The main difference is if you want to scan a large application and evaluate the entire application from a security point of view, that's AppScan Source for analysis. If you want to do CodeSweep, if you want to find things that you work on in your code and on the file you're dealing with, that's where CodeSweep comes into play. The other difference is that in AppScan Source for analysis, you'll have the option to generate reports, which you cannot do with CodeSweep, and also do something that's known as data flow analysis. For languages like Java, .NET, and C and C++, we can run a much deeper type of analysis, which doesn't just highlight a line of code and say, here is the vulnerability. It tries to track all the information, all the data that goes through your application before it reaches to a vulnerable API. So it does a bit more, a type of analysis that it is a bit more complex.
And we have another question. How about PLSQL? Which RDBMS are supported?
We have some PLSQL, but I'm not sure about the second question. I'll need to follow up on that one. The second part of the question is not clear to me. But there are some checks for PLSQL. There's not a lot to look for in there, but we do have some checks available.
All right, are there any more questions? Oh, we have one more question. What are the primary limitations with a community edition versus ASOC?
So with the community edition, you will be able to scan and look at all the available findings in your working files, but you'll not be able to apply autofix. So if you want to apply the autofix, like I was doing here, then you'll need to have an ASOC subscription. Whether it's a full subscription or a trial, either works, but you do need to have a subscription to access the autofix. Other than that, you will have the same capabilities available to you with and without an ASOC subscription. Autofix is the only thing that's exclusive to an ASOC user. And I should mention the other one is that I said in the beginning, if you already find something, if you know of an issue and you have it in ASOC, similar to what I had in my previous scan, then CodeSweep will not show that issue to you. It will consider it's known and it will not bother you with it.
And it looks like we have 2 more questions. Can you create a custom security rules?
With CodeSweep, you cannot create custom security rules. But if you have
Well,
any ideas for good rules that we should add, we're very happy to look at any RFE you send our way.
and does the plugin connects to a cloud service or the rules are loaded locally?
Everything can run locally. You don't have to connect to a cloud service. Connecting to a cloud service gives you access to the autofix, and avoiding showing rules that have been identified in previous scans.
All right, and those are some great questions. This will be the end of the session. I will send a thank you email to everyone in the next couple of days. Again, the recording can be sent to anyone